Hello, everyone. Nice meeting you all. So today we will be talking about, free-to-play contracts and agreements, stuff like that. So mostly, when you start developing your game and you started thinking about, well, right now we need a publisher, or you're a publisher and, well, you're scouting out new games or you're working in a new publishing company, you will be thinking like, what should I be looking for and what should I need, to do the deals. So, you know that a relationship between a developer and a publisher is a long-term relationship, right? So, let's say we're talking about free-to-play games, so it's between at least 3 years to more than that. I've seen some contracts up to 10 years in Asia. It's really amazing stuff, but you should think about it as you're gonna be working out with the publisher or that developer for a very long time. And to do that, you have to make sure that what you're doing is correct because it's not a fast deal where you sell something and that's it. So, from a publisher side, you can, when you think about the developer and you want to take that game, can I give that game the resources, the money, the user acquisition, customer support, all that services that it needs to be successful in that region or worldwide? And from a developer point of view, can I trust that publisher to take my game and really make it in the top grossing or the best game on the web, the biggest game on PC, and make it really very popular and amazing. So we're here to give you a better understanding, of how the deal mostly structured, what you expect to talk with the publisher or the developer, and how things goes there. So normally, between developers and publishers, there's always license fee, which we call LF, and minimal guarantee and revenue share. So it depends on the deal structure whether you only do revenue share, and the minimal guarantee is actually, as a developer, you get that money, and when the game is published, you will wait until the publisher recoup all that minimal guarantee from the revenues, then the revenue share split will work on. But when you ask for license fee, you will take that license fee as you have licensed this game for the publisher, and that's it. So he will not take that money from the revenues that come. So you will start revenue share from day one. But before starting, to discuss this stuff with the publisher or the developer, you have to think about so many other things that why should I go with that developer or publisher? And just a small advice from me and my experience in the gaming industry, never think about the money or like, okay, we have developed a team, we're in the developer, we developed a game, we're in the developer, we should ask, like $1 million from that publisher because, we deserve that. Never think about the money because it should be the last thing on your mind. The developer concerns, like you have to check, are these good publishers? What's their reputation? Are they known? Not known? Did you ever heard about them? You can, search online. What's their reputation? It's very important to also understand what's the background of the publisher because, when you're working, for example, free-to-play games, and the publisher comes from a console, scene, I've seen so many, situation when, console publishers try to get into mobile and they contract with developers, but it's a mess. It's really a mess. The games don't get to be successful because they come from totally another world. Also, you're developing a free-to-play game. That's great, but what kind of game? Is it casual, mid-core, hardcore? You have to find the right publisher because a casual, publisher is not related to mid-core or hardcore. You have to also check what's their successful titles because it's very important to see they have good track record or not. Are they able to actually deliver what they say? How many titles they have published? It's also very important. The publisher you want is a publisher who can take good care of your game. It means that he doesn't publish lots of games per year because if he does that, then he will just grab your game, throw it in the market, and see the results, and you don't want to do that. You also have to see how much that publisher really believes in your game, right? And you can measure that, but by how much they talk to you, how much they want to publish your game, and they should be following you, not you following them. Because if they believe in your game, they will keep contacting you until a certain limit. One of the, we said that money should be the last thing on your mind. So what's important also that you care about user acquisition, and everybody knows that right now the prices of user acquisition is really going up high in the sky. So what should be you thinking about is like, can they really do good marketing campaign for the games? Can they bring good number of installs in the regions that we're contracting on? Uh, Also, do they have in-house team of localizers or not? Because in specific regions, especially like Asia, China, Korea, Japan, Middle East, and other areas, it doesn't always work out with localization agencies. So you have to make sure that they really can localize, culturalize, translate the game in the right way, and be able to really make it appealing for the players in that region. And there's also, other concerns that you should think about, but it's up to you as a developer, like what's important for you and what's not when you talk to that publisher. And from publisher concerns, we always, at least from my experience, we have to think about, are they, good developers, or they are ND, what's their technical expertise, how long they have been developing games, what's their background, did they develop, successful titles before, they they need us or not, do they work out with international publishers, are they you know, custom to it, because we've seen a lot of developers who trying to find publishers, but they never dealt with publishers, and they're very close-minded about the game, what to change in it and what to not. And to work out with international publishers, you have to be actually open about that, because every region has different specification and chains for that game, whether in graphics or SDK installed or stuff like that. So you have to be more flexible when you talk to these publishers. Also, what we look at when we want to license a game, we look at KPIs. So for example, if you have published your game in Europe or certain countries in Europe, we would be looking at the normal KPIs like installs, daily active users, the monetization side, and what so on. And if you have good KPIs, you can have good deals with publishers in other regions, like the North America, South America, Asia, and you will be able to convince them better that your game will work out in that region. As an example, there was a couple of Three Kingdom titles in Asia that were westernized, and the whole graphics was changed to fantasy theme, and they had good KPIs, and it really proved that this game could work out in another region with a changed theme. So when you want to discuss the revenue share and the minimal guarantee and license fee with the publisher, you have to always think about that when you ask for a higher license fee or minimal guarantee, your revenue share will go down. So if you ask for a high number, you will get a very, very low revenue share from that publisher, because in the end he wants his money back and his investment. But if you don't ask for a big amount of that, you will get a better revenue share. And as an example, I've seen games that they took a very big amount of license fee or minimal guarantee, and it turned out their game became one of the most successful free-to-play games ever, and the most revenues went to the publisher, and they didn't get any because they asked for a very high license fee, and they lost a lot of money for that. So be careful when you decide how much revenue share and minimal guarantee you want, because it could affect you for the next 5 years. So normally when you talk to publishers, they will try to convince you about a certain amount of revenue share. They're there are no standard for such things. So you could find deals going on based on 50-50 revenue share. You can find 50-50 plus license fee or minimal guarantee, or both, depending on how successful the title is. And then it starts going between 60 for the publisher, 40 the developer. Again, as we said, the higher the license fee, the lower the revenue share. As an example, if you have a very good grossing game in your Europe, Asia, or USA, and you're looking out for other publishers in other regions, you can ask for a good amount of revenue share, up to 50%, because you can prove that your game is monetizing good, and that's what really publishers want. Normally, when you work out with a publisher, always in the contract, you have to understand that there is a certain amount until you get your revenues from their side, because if they're using payment channels or stores like iOS and Android, Apple Store, there's a certain amount of time it's needed until those revenues get delivered to the publisher actually. So it takes, for example, about minimal 2 weeks to 1 month or more for them to get the revenues, and then after checking all the data, they will send you the revenues for you, and you should consider that each month you have to wait about 1 or 2 months until you get your own revenues. You should also always consider the termination clause or clauses in the contract. So as an advice from my side, always make sure that there's a clause for the publisher if he does not deliver what he promises you to, so you can end that contract, because you want to make sure that they do whatever they can to make your game really successful. Also, you have to look out for intellectual property. So because when you give your game to the publisher, it's not only about the graphics or assets you have created, because they also will create graphics and assets, especially if it's in another region. So from marketing assets to their own localized assets in their own language and stuff like that, it will be mostly copyrighted to them. So you have to understand the difference between what you can copyright and what's their copyright of their work and the stuff they're added to your game. Well, that's mostly a sum up of the stuff you should look out in the contracts. And if you have any questions or any clarification of what I said, I know there's not a lot of images and funny stuff, but you can ask me.
Hello, thank you very much for a nice presentation.
No problem.
I was wondering, is it useful to go have multiple publishers for different regions of the world, or is it in first case would not be wise to do that?
Actually, I would advise you to go for different publishers for different regions, because most probably when you take one global publisher, they will not be able to translate or localize your game into all the languages it needed. Also, they wouldn't have the right experience to cover your game in all these regions, and they won't have the capability also. So they're good. For example, if you take a good global publisher that will deliver your game to North America and Europe, but if you go to Asia, especially, you have to define, the right publishers and be able to give it to each publisher. For example, for Korea, you have to find your own publisher. For China, for Japan, so it's totally different there.
But I can imagine then that publisher, if the publisher gives money up front to finish your game, that they won't like it that you then go with your finished game to another publisher to make it a big hit in Japan. If the publisher is going to put up money up front to finish your game,
Yeah.
They make it a big success in America, and then you go to another publisher of Japan and say like, okay, thank you for your money, but now I have another publisher who does it there.
Of course. So the trick is that when a publisher invests in your game while it's at the development stage, they will own some of the copyrighted material of that game. Am I correct? It is correct. So when they actually invest in your game, they will hold the copyright for that game. So they will not allow you to give that game to other publishers But what you can agree with them is that they will contract with other publishers in other regions. But when they invest directly in your game, it means that they gave you funds for you to complete development, and then they own of that copyright material.
Thanks. Are there still publishers for free-to-play games that will give money up front? Because it's getting less so in PC and console, but how does it work for free-to-play?
Yeah, there are some publishers who will, invest in your team or in your game until it's finished. Uh, there are a couple actually, but it depends where are you located and how deep are you in development. So if you're only having a concept and some drawings and some ideas, you say you have the next big thing. So I don't think you will get actually that. But let's say you're like 80% or 70% in development and you need the rest of the money to complete the 30% and then start advertising or publishing that game, then you will have, several interested parties in that.
All right.
Thank you guys.